expired. Senator Rennick.
Madam Deputy President, and what a time to be alive. And never have before the forces between darkness and evil been more clear than here today. What we've had today here is nothing but a session, a bile session of putrid personal smears, talking about a fantasy target of net zero emissions by 2050, emissions by 2050. And we've got Senator Watt, who's got the audacity to come in here and talk about regional Queensland, and somehow blame the Nats for everything that's gone wrong in regional Queensland. Well, let me tell you something, acting Madam Deputy President. State Labor is responsible for the destruction of
Senator
regional
Rennick,
Queensland.
resume your seat, please. Senator McCarthy.
Point of order. You are the Deputy President.
Thank you, Senator McCarthy. Senator Rennick.
Apologies
I was allowing
for that.
you in the full spirit
apologies
of
for that.
Go.
And where do we start? When it comes to regional Queensland, what we've got here is state Labor government who privatised nearly all of the assets that the state government owned: Queensland Rail, Golden Casket, the forestry plantations, the Port of Brisbane. 6 times earning, they sold the Port of Brisbane, a monopoly to 6 times earnings, a 99-year lease, and they wonder why the state of Queensland's going broke. But what I want to know is how exactly— I'll tell you what our policy, by the way, is when it comes to energy. It is cheap and reliable energy that is going to create jobs in the manufacturing sector, not in the inputs, not in the cost sector of creating energy. No. We had the world's cheapest energy when Labor came to power in 1990 from the world's best coal. But that's all been destroyed thanks to mismanagement by the Queensland Labor government, and the fact that they now subsidise foreign companies to come to Queensland. They pay foreign companies to come to Queensland and generate renewable energy. Now, Queensland coal-powered fire stations and gas power stations have the potential to generate 13 gigawatts of energy a day. The most Queensland's ever used is 9 gigawatts. In order to meet their 50% target, they are going to add another 20 gigawatts of renewable energy, despite the fact that they don't need it, because we already have sufficient supply to meet demand. But what they're going to do is they're going to drive our energy that the Queensland owned— the last thing the Queensland Labor government didn't sell, the Queensland-owned energy companies, they are going to drive them into the ground. And last year was the first year that the Queensland energy companies lost $1.5 billion because they had to get turned off all the time, while the foreign-owned renewable companies had the opportunity to make money. Now, and the other thing is all this, wonderful talk about net zero 50, blah, blah, blah. You know who's doing the heavy lifting in this country when it comes to reducing emissions? Are our farmers, and the reduction in land use. Now, I just want to quote some figures here across Australia of how much money is being invested in reducing carbon emissions. In New South Wales, there's $630 million being invested in reducing carbon emissions. In Victoria, a measly $15 million. ACT nothing, in WA $109 million, and Northern Territory $38 million. But in Queensland, there's $886 million being invested in buying back land, locking up land, agricultural land, in order to reduce carbon emissions. And do you know where the bulk of that is? In my turf, the Darling Downs in the southwest, where we've got $523 million. That's almost as much as the entire amount of New South Wales and more than the rest of the other states combined. So this is typical walk the walk, talk the talk. Labor love to talk the talk, but they never come to walk the walk, all these inner-city people that want to reduce emissions. So when are they going to start riding their push bikes to work? When are they going to stop taking aeroplane flights? When are they going to turn their air conditioning off? Rather than pushing farmers in southwest Queensland out of jobs, when are they going to actually start walking the walk for a change instead of dictating to everyone else on what should happen? And as for meeting 2050, why should this country be subservient to other nations? Who can well remember the Hawke-Keating government when Hawke took the states to the High Court in 1983 to block the building of the Franklin Dam? Now, had that dam been built, that was carbon-free energy. And you know what Tasmania did for the rest of the 80s? They voted against Labor. And you know how Tasmania is going now? Since they have allowed more dams and weirs to be built, they're the second strongest economy now in the country, thanks to building of dams. But do we see that in Queensland? No, we don't. What's the state government doing? They're ripping down our own dams. They're ripping down Paradise Dam That's a carbon-free source of energy if they put a generator on the end of it. But no, 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 no. They're happy to pull down Australian-made, Australian-owned clean energy and then pay foreigners to actually produce energy that, after all, isn't all that clean because it's come up with solar panels and batteries and wind turbines that can't be recycled.
Thank you, Senator.